Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Ellensburg, Washington, USA. You're looking at a live shot out a window, the first floor of Discovery Hall on the campus of Central Washington University. It's a beautiful morning. The sun is hitting the biology and chemistry building, and you've got the shot right there, courtesy of WindowCam. Good morning. Thank you for joining us today. The local time is 7:49 a.m. Pacific time, and today's date is November 15th of 2025. It's an early Saturday morning. That is our routine here. We go Thursdays and Saturdays all through the winter. Alaska A to Z. So, most of you are watching this after the fact in replay, and of course you can skip ahead 10 minutes or so to get to the beginning of episode D. You can do that right now if you want. Replay viewers, skip ahead. There's a little bookmark, there's a little chapter title. It says episode D begins. And you can skip this first 10 minutes where I'm just saying hi to everybody. But there's a bunch of live viewers, more than 300 of them, early birds, ready to go, talking to each other already for many minutes in the live chat. And it's time to say hi to a bunch. Lindy says, hello from Hawaii. Boy, it's early for you. Eugene, Oregon. Olympia, Washington. Gresham, Oregon. Menominee, Michigan. Auckland, New Zealand. That's Adele. Hello. What time is it there, Adele? And is it tomorrow? Sunday? Houston, Texas. Everett, Washington, the Colorado Rockies. I'm down to live against my will. Fairbanks, Alaska. That's Don, minus 1 degrees Fahrenheit. Roseburg, Oregon. Lava Hot Springs, Idaho. Amity Hills, Oregon. Adventuresome Brada in Waikele, Hawaii. Good morning. Homer, Alaska. Costa Mesa, California. Slowing down the chat so I can read it. Penticton, British Columbia. What's up, Ned? From Minnesota, D-Man. What's up, D-Man? D-Man, you're D-Man. Kirk's in Philomath, Rochester, New York, Moneta, Virginia, still down to live. Kitty is in the Netherlands. Gary Paul, backcountry Gary Paul, says the Western Melange Belt is here. Good morning, Gary. Stone Mountain, Georgia, Bristol, UK, Elko, Nevada. I'm high this morning. I'm still excited. And I had another set of light bulb moments an hour ago. So, man, I don't know how this is going to last. I don't know how long this is going to last, but I am extra charged about this content. Can't wait to do it this morning. Webb Lake, Wisconsin, New England, USA. Daniels in Paris, France. That's French. Falls City, Washington. Good morning, Kevin. Roswell, Georgia. 5x5 from the tent in the desert outside of Phoenix. Hello, Saber. Yelm, Washington, Orem, Utah. Yeah, listen, more exotic folks. Dorset, UK. Den is a regular. Leslie is in Boxborough, Massachusetts. That's exotic. I'm looking for more European viewers because the time seems to be right. Probably mid-afternoon there. I don't know. Sweden. There's Kirk. On demand. Terry's in the Dalles, Oregon. We got 4 folks from San Diego so far this morning, reports Nina. Keyport, Washington. Stoke, England. Hello. Pat from Yakima. Kalamazoo, Gary. Glasgow, Scotland. Depot Bay. I'm going to show a photo of you today, Jim. Edinburgh, Scotland. And so on. So thank you so much. We've got just a few minutes before we start, of course. I'm looking around for some reason. Okay, yeah, I guess you early birds are typically mean that you're extra into this, and I appreciate it. It doesn't necessarily mean that, but whatever. I haven't really commented on this so far, but let me just say it for the first time. In our solid hour of geology, I don't think I'll be bothering with schedules and calendars and things. I noticed that in past alphabets. I would set the hook, and then I'd start talking about the calendar. It's like, to me, that was just like deflating the whole thing. So we're doing a calendar now. and this is self-explanatory. In case you were wondering, we're going to take a week off for Thanksgiving. We're heading up to Bellingham. Luca Zentner is 16 months old, and his parents are not that interested in getting everybody over to Ellensburg. Totally fine. In fact, all 3 boys are in Bellingham now. And Sam, the middle son, who took care of his mother last winter, is now taking care of Luca while his parents are teaching in Bellingham. So things are right in the world with those kids. So we're whatever. You're busy for Thanksgiving. We're busy for Thanksgiving. Move on. Okay. What else? I don't know. I feel like I can't wait to start this morning. Again, Nat the Wonder Boy was here again yesterday. This guy will not. What did he say? He walked in. He said, "Hey man, I'm committed now. I'm I put so much time into this." Nat was watching live last time, and he came over and said, "I want to tweak a couple more things." And so this is the HDR camera. It's the same exact camera we were using last winter that was freezing all the time, if you remember, and stuttering. Appears we've solved that, and because of the upgrade of the computer and other things, we can now do this in HDR. And yeah, things are looking and hopefully sounding great. I don't think that's ever been better. I'm talking about the work of Nat the Wonder Boy. This has never been better. We're pumping out in 4K. We tested that last time, and bunch of you can go to your gear icon and get it in 4K. It's I don't need to look at this in 4K. It's I understand, but some of us like to be as crisp as possible, especially when we go to some of these gorgeous maps and other things from Bob. So Kirk from Philomath, I got 2 more mugs to Nat, so he's got a collection of 5 or 6 of Kirk's mugs. But I need to do even more for Nat. He's it's my job. But I don't know. Totally different than even last year, I think. Okay. I need to take my walk, and thank you to whoever suggested I should just unplug my cord instead of struggling with these earbuds back and forth. And I got the green light from Nat to do that. I got permission to just not take my earbuds off when I take my walk. I'm just going to have a dangling cord down the back of my shirt. So thank you. We're going to start our program in 4 minutes. Hans is in the Netherlands. Pat Miller from Yakima says, the system is top drawer, and I agree. The wine is gone. No, it's up there. You just can't see the top shelf. Okay, thank you. Thank you. We'll start soon. I need to give you this shot out the window. It's just we're not going to have any light a month from now, I don't think. Okay, so I'm going to detach myself. This will be interesting. Okay. I've cut the cord. Can't get out of my chair, though. All right. Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of Alaska A to Z. This is show D, called Collisional Suites. It's a phrase that I made up last night. I think if you Google Collisional Suites, you're not going to find anything. But it's the working title that I have for a collection of drawings that I want to do with you this morning. And I'm riding a wave that I enjoyed last time. In other words, as we were wrapping up less than 48 hours ago in episode C, I was drawing a little bit. I even drew a little bit after I said goodbye. I just kept the live stream going and just did a little bit on Docky. I think I want to lean into it even more. I want to draw a couple of different things that I think, if it works today, we're going to basically put these little cartoons that we make together on some index cards and take them up to Alaska. And it's like, what is this mountain range? What are the age of these thrust faults? And we check our little template, our little Bob Hildebrand template, which is the way that I have laid this out for my head and hopefully for many of you. Yes, it's all in Hildebrand stuff, but as we've talked about already, probably too much. It's too dense, it's too hard to follow, and so therefore it's hard to get a hold of anything. I have grabbed a hold of something that works for me, and we're going to draw it out together. So that's the main objective this morning. I'm going to take my time. This is one where I'm just going to be doing a bunch of drawing with you. It's almost like a chalkboard lecture where I have learned over the years when I draw things with students, it engages them. We kind of build it from scratch. They can kind of see it, and they feel invested in making the drawing as opposed to me just showing a slide in a PowerPoint and say, copy this down. That's different. So it's retro in many ways. So I've got the document camera a little bit closer to the mic so that I can kind of draw and also still talk to you into this high-quality microphone thanks to Nat. That's the main plan today. I think maybe late we'll finish a couple of the segments of Bob Hildebrand's slideshow, which we have not gotten to yet because that's detail. But even if we don't get to that, I think it's where we're headed next time. So one more comment. I hereby declare that next week, next Thursday and next Saturday, those two final Hildebrand shows will be tied to magmas. So if we go to document camera for the first time of many times today, this is the plan. So here we are with episode D. And I had planned all along before we started that we were going to do 6 episodes before Thanksgiving, and those 6 episodes were going to be devoted to Bob Hildebrand. And so, by the time we get to F, I'm hoping to wrap up this thorough look into the world of the Bob Hildebrand experience. And then I don't know what we do up here. Do we go to Alaska right away after Thanksgiving? I don't know. But I'm saying that next Thursday and next Saturday we'll be dealing with these arc versus slab failure magmas, which is a crucial question for what we're doing this entire winter. I'm confident of that. Okay, well, I've set the hook, hopefully, for this morning. Let's try to do this. Docky, and we just go. If you want to draw along with me, that's great. I don't know. So this is what we finished with last time. I was really improvising, and I like most of what this says, and I'm going to redraw this with adding a bunch more stuff. So I'm just going to basically make some more room for myself. Also, this is the stuff I was doing before we turned off the camera last time, where I'm playing with eastward subduction. And this should look familiar from our discussion in the Crazy Eocene and even much of the Cascades A to Z series last November and December. In other words, a year ago, before we got rudely interrupted by that family emergency, we were talking about Silesia being drawn towards Washington and Oregon and colliding that stuff. And so there's a corollary. This is a collision. Come on, man. This is the 7th collision, building off of last time. So this collisional suite of features, we might even try to go here and see if we can see some of those features in the Eocene. But of course, so far this winter, we've not been thinking about the Eocene. We've been thinking about older stuff. Okay. but we're really not thinking about the Eocene, and we're not really thinking about eastward subduction, at least when we're thinking about Hildebrand. So Hildebrand likes to flip everything around and have westward subduction, where we have the ribbon continent or the insular superterrane or Wrangeli and friends. And remember, one of the main points from last episode is that we didn't just have one major thing out there in the Pacific. We had a number of things. We had a number of island arcs. And the basement of some of the island arcs has North American crust in its basement, so therefore we have to deal with the complication of colliding with North America and then rifting some of that stuff back out into the water and then having it come back in again. We're not going to get hung up there. But if we flip things around, and we were doing this a little bit late last time, and I'm going to do a lot more of it this morning, if we have westward subduction and we pull the ocean plate into the trench, therefore we pull North America westward towards a relatively fixed Wrangeli and friends 100 million years ago, we're going to get this collisional suite, a bunch of features that record this hit. You know where we are now. So some of this is going to feel like review, but I'm going to try to go quickly, draw it with you. And the thing I'm excited about this morning is I've added some things to this drawing that just the light bulbs went off for me an hour and a half ago. And Bijou was outside. It's so mild. It's 47 degrees at 8 in the morning here. So it's not like Bijou was even with me. And I did it without Bijou. I did it all by myself. All right. Docky. So here's how I want to start. I don't want to start drawing. I want to start doing this instead. One working idea this entire winter is the phrase of dock and slice. I don't need to go back and define it again in detail. We've already talked about the idea that we're making exotic terrains out in the Pacific Ocean. We're docking them or adding to the edge of North America, and that's not the end of the story. That's just the first half of the story. The second half of the story is that we cut it with a strike-slip fault, and then we send a bunch of the stuff north. So, also playing off of what I did in the first couple of episodes, dock it implies make it, dock it, slice it, send it. What I'm trying to do here to begin our discussion this morning is that where does the collisional suite fit into this grand scheme? So one thing I want to do right now is make sure that you can see that we're really talking about two different major things with this Bob Hildebrand work. There's the collisional story, where we dock things, and he's got revolutionary thoughts there. And then we also have the slice it and send it part of the story, and it's revolutionary there. That's the headline from the new paper, the Tintina Rocky Mountain Trench Fault and 1,300 kilometers and finding the Baja BC fault that nobody could find. That's the slice it part. But have you been clear that the collisional story and the northward migration story are really two separate things? Maybe that's the benefit of drawing it out like this. It's a bit of a kind of a little word map for ourselves. So let me just keep going with random colors that don't probably make a whole lot of sense, but let's do it anyway. So what's out in the water? An exotic, oceanic island arc. You can think Japan, you can think the Philippines, you can think the outer Aleutians. I think for some of the collisions, but not all of them. The Wrangellia composite terrain was clearly a much larger piece of real estate out in the Pacific Ocean than a simple Japanese island arc. But the point is, it's exotic to North America. The docket is the topic today. That's where today's discussion and today's drawing, and where our collisions we were talking about last time, that's where it fits into this make it, dock it, slice it, send it routine. Different random color. As we learned from the Bob Hildebrand blue ribbon email last time, you can't find any of these collisions intact. Every frickin' collision, every frickin' thing that was out in the water and gets docked has been cut in half at least. And half of it's north and half of it's to the south. So that's the slice it. What are we slicing with? We're slicing with strike slip faults. Give me some examples. The Tintina is a strike slip fault. Controversial, but Bob's new message, the Rocky Mountain Trench is a strike slip fault, primarily. The Straight Creek Fault in Washington is a strike slip fault. The Denali Fault, the Border Ranges Fault, blah, 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 all these things. But, okay, getting excited again. I think we lose the message when we don't realize that we can group these faults by age. And we can not only group the faults by age, but we can group the collisions by age. And then we can tie one collision with one set of faults. I think we need colors now. I think we have found, some of you were mentioning this last time, I think I've finally started to realize we might come up with a coloring scheme. Daddy's excited. We might come up with a new coloring scheme, and I might get some help from you about what colors make sense. Okay. Now let me finish. Boy, I got a lot here. I got a lot. Meaning I have a lot of excitement. I need to slow myself down. Let me finish this first. So the western side goes north every time. So you make it out in the water, you dock the frickin' thing. And how do we know when we have a collision? That's the topic today. We're about to draw the suite of features that are collectively documenting one particular collision. But then we slice the thing, and the west half of the collisional suite is going to head north. In case you don't have patience this morning, the Omanika plutonic complex is part of a collisional suite, and it's half of the collisional suite, and the other half of the collisional suite is in Utah. We're going to specifically pay off, maybe by the end of today even, with the keynote slides from Bob and the idea that, my God, we've got all sorts of stuff that we can recognize on maps. They've been staring at us in the face. I'm talking about me now. They've been staring me at the face with these gorgeous maps, but I can now see what I couldn't see even 48 hours ago. Back to Docky. Come on now. What are you doing? I was about to go on a whole nother tangent. I can't remember what the hell it was. I guess I won't. Okay, so dock and slice. Do I want to add anything else here? Sure, why not? Let's set the hook for next week. Next week, and we will also lay into this today, magmas that have a volcanic arc signature, geochemically and otherwise. And I guess even like eclogites and blue schists and green schists can all be tied to subduction. This is a subduction when we're making something out in the water. I besides something like Silesia, which is, okay, new thought right now, besides Silesia and Yakutat, which was not a subduction story out in the water, that was clearly, I think most everybody agrees, a mantle plume story with a spreading ridge. But I think most of the, okay, I'm not sure about this as I say it out loud. I think tentatively most of our things that we're going to dock were created by oceanic subduction, an ocean plate subducting beneath something else out in the water. And Hildebrand says most of the subduction is westward. The ocean plate is slanting away from North America. But there's an arc signature. I'm going to draw all this in just a second, but I just hope this is our first pass through this chronology today. But then here's this slab failure thing. It's not just the magmas. That's the whole point of today's episode. But if we're just contrasting these two batches of magmas, geochemically and otherwise, this is not a subduction. So just giving it to you verbally in this form, and did you catch this in the last episode? Not all of the magmas, according to Bob Hildebrand, are from volcanic arc subduction. Okay. I think we're going to say that most of this next week. I don't know. A generation or two ago, did everybody in geology just assume that every batholith and every large pluton was made by oceanic subduction, ocean plate subducting, and making the magmas? That was the birth of plate tectonics, and everybody was excited, and that's maybe where we were. Maybe in the last 20 years, we're starting to wonder if that assumption for every magma is incorrect. And it's worth visiting every pluton and every batholith and asking, are we sure this is from a subduction of an oceanic plate or not? Bob's saying that there's plenty of magmas that happen immediately after the collision. So these are post-collisional slab failure magmas that have nothing to do with subduction. The subduction is done. There's no subduction happening at all after you dock the thing, after you have the collision, and yet you're making magmas after the collision. So we're saving this for I don't know when. Like we started with this. We started episode A and B kind of talking about this, which is kind of backwards in a way because the slice is happening younger than you have to dock it first before you slice it. But that's the goal of this little drawing. We're here for the rest of today. Okay? Doing okay? I hope so. I looked into the wrong dot. Now there you are. You doing okay? Okay. Pick it up. Let's go. So I tried this morning to give myself the right space to try to do what I want to do on this piece of paper. So let's try. Let's try. And when you draw things with your class, we're going to have to be willing to deal with some pregnant pauses. So what's the title of this? Quote unquote, Collisional Suite. I don't know if I like that, but that's what we're using today. So to me, a suite, and I think to most people, a suite is a collection of things. If it's a musical suite, a suite 42 in A minor, there's different movements, and they're all part of something that's a bigger body of work, essentially, by the composer. I'm sure there's other definitions of suites that you have as well. But it's a collection. It's a family. It's a gathering of things that are all collectively telling one major story, and the major story is a collision. Okay, well, let's remember, that's what I was going to do. So here it is. So you remember last time, Bob gave us 3 major collisions in the Cretaceous, and 3 more collisions, at least, in the Jurassic. And I'm making smaller dots because I guess the message is those might have been smaller collisions. I'm not really sure of that. Maybe we just have less rock record to document those. But it's the 3 major collisions that we're talking about. So I tried to do it a little bit more. I don't know if this looks any better, but I've added some labels that Bob has been using. And I did hear from Bob after last show, and he said, I don't know, do you really want to change these names? I've got them all through my literature, and other people, I don't know if other people are using it, but Like my hunch was to change this to Rangelia hit, because that is the 100 million year event. I don't know. So the point is, here are those same 6 collisions that we introduced last time. And then, of course, we can't forget about our local hit, which according to Basil Tikoff is a nothing burger. But maybe we'll ask today and into next week, was it really a nothing burger as far as how far inland are we going to get Soletsia effects? But these are our 7. We're up to 7 collisions that I'm working with. Before you lose sight of it today, our drawing we're about to do, I'm wondering if we can take our collisional suite sketch and apply it to all 7 of these. Can you see it now? If I'm out in the field somewhere and somebody says we got some thrust faults, I'm like, oh, 100 million year, 124, 168, 50? Oh, we've got some volcanic arc magmas here. Number 1, you sure they're arc magmas? Oh, yes, of course. Here's all the signatures. This has to be a volcanic arc. Okay, well, is it tied to this, or this, or this, or this, or this? I don't want to belabor it too much, but these are 7 buckets. And the trinkets, you remember a couple episodes ago, I want to be able to do something with the trinket. And I think it's going to be pretty easy to take a bunch of detailed stuff and put them into the 7 buckets until I have a major chorus of people up in Alaska telling me that's just impossible. So I'm excited right now. In a month, I might not be excited. I'm excited right now. So let's do it. Again, different colors. So what do I need? I need, I guess I want to erase this now. I don't think I want to draw all this again. Let's just do this. So let's start with this model, and with today's meeting, we are talking only about westward subduction. And so you know that this is our exotic piece of land out in the water. This is North America being pulled to it. And we do have a volcanic arc. We do have a subducting plate. And we do have magmas coming up, let's say, in the eastern portion of this exotic island. We'll just call it that. And I crossed out the 100 because I want to play with 124. I want to be generic about this because, again, we're going to have collisional suites for all 7 of these vintages. But I want to, at least as I introduce and we draw this thing together, I want to just think about the severe hit. Because we're going to have the 124 million year old-ish collisional suite on display before we quit today. I got to keep the pace going because I want to get to those slides. I can't have that roll off into next week. So let's keep it up. Keep going. Talking to myself. Okay, so we're going to use orange for arc magmas in this stuff, and we're closing this ocean basin. So we are looking at arc magmas that have to be older than 124 million years ago, because what's 124 million years ago according to Hildebrand? That's the age of the collision. When we do the hit, we're talking about the severe. Bob Hildebrand's severe collision. I've already shown you where it is on the time scale. And so our 124 million year old hit is what? It's let's just call it the ribbon continent. It's the ribbon continent colliding, let's say the exotic island is colliding with North America. And so 124 is when we close the ocean. And therefore, older than 124 million years ago, we have an ocean plate subducting, we have arc magmas rising, we have a orange volcano puffing away, erupting every few centuries, Cascadia type stuff for sure, okay? But this is older than 124 million years ago. 124 million year magmas. Oh, can we really find old 130 million year old volcanoes somewhere? Of course not. They're totally eroded. They're dead and they're gone. They're ghost volcanoes. But we have some of these older than 124 million year old magmas. So let's do that here before we lose the thought. So this is the exotic island after the collision. You with me? We're using the example of 124 million, the severe hit. So in this thing, which is to the west of the suture, I'm just going east and west here for simplicity. Everything is trying to be as most perfect and elegant and simple as possible. Here's our arc magmas. I'm not drawing the volcanoes anymore because they're dead. They're gone. This is, I don't know these numbers for sure, but let me just grab this. Okay, 20 million years-ish of subduction underneath the exotic island and 20 million years of arc magmas. Might be wrong, just going with it. These are magmas that formed before the collision. Right? Pre-collision. So we need mafic enclaves. We need, BADR, all this stuff from Jeff Tepper last winter. Okay? This is North America. And so what are we going to find in North America to record this collision? Well, one thing already is we're suddenly going to shut off these arc magmas 124 million years ago, according to Bob. So the ocean plate is gone. There is no more ocean plate, period. We've closed the ocean, and so the arc thing just freezes. We just solidify everything. There's no heat left at all. But immediately, we start making thrust faults from the collision, the ongoing collision. And I think I'm just going to draw them on the North American side. For all I know, they're also on the exotic island side. But these are thrust faults. I'm going to run out of space if I draw everything out nice and big like this. So I think these are pizza boxes. These are slivers of North America that are broken free from what's below, and so we're shoving old stuff up on top of young stuff to the east. There's all sorts of words and labels and everything else, but the basic idea is, I'll write that at least. These are thrust faults. And we have ages on the thrust faults. I think that's the number I remember. So I'm just using a nice 20 million year stretch just to be simple about it. So these are post-collisional thrust faults. We did the collision 124. So before the collision, we made these magmas. They're done. These are showing up because of the collision. How many field trips have I been on over the last 30, 40 years where we just look at a thrust fault and we talk about all the minutia with the thrust fault and the upper plate and the lower plate and the ductile whatever along the décollement? That's French. Who's talking about why the fault is even showing up when it is? Or who's even talking about when the thrusting started? To me, that's the excitement. And I remember vaguely kind of wondering, but nobody had any answers. You're just going out to look at a thrust fault. And maybe you're sketching something about the antler orogeny or something in the middle of Nevada where you're bored out of your mind sitting in the middle of a major highway because there's nobody out there. I'm talking about myself in the 1980s. Walt Snyder, Dave Rogers. It was too much. Too much. I'm struggling with OBS right now. Hang on. Back. Okay, so the thrust faults are happening. I learned last time from Bob that the post-collisional magmas, the slab failure magmas, are not showing up immediately. So let's have our thrust faults all through here, okay? These are the severe thrust faults. I should put severe up here. This is the severe collision. Good. Pick up the pace. These are post-collisional. They're not pre-collisional, they're post-collisional. Bob makes the point that before the collision, this arc scene is low. It's not high. Remember that slideshow? Yao Ming and all that? Bob makes that point that volcanic arcs around the world are typically low elevation, and that's important right now. This apparently is low elevation as well, but it's not going to be low elevation for long, because the impact of this collision 124 million years ago is not only making the thrust faults, but it's starting to lift. It's starting to lift deeper rocks to the surface. So in dark purple, this is this morning stuff that got me going. So this is the mid-crust. These are schists and gneisses, let's say, migmatites even, down here deeper than 20 kilometers down. Okay. We're setting the stage for what? The collision is going to start to lift this whole area. We're in the middle of a major collision between two major pieces of real estate. We know there's going to be uplift here. That's when we're going to start doing our exhumation. And by doing that, we're going to start lifting this stuff, and at the same time, we're going to have red magmas invading as well. This is the last show. Fireworks. The fireworks are the thrust faults are first, and then the slab failure. $750 live viewers. Making up numbers. I think it's something like this. Post-collisional. So it's one thing to bring in these slab failure magmas. And you're like, I don't understand the slab failure magmas. Well, we'll look at the same animation we looked at last time, but there is a tectonic explanation for these very different magmas. The point I want to make is that they're invading not only thrust faults, but this metamorphic stuff that's deeper, and everything's rising. I don't know about the timing of this. Maybe Bob can help in the live chat or can text me or whatever, but as I'm thinking about it right now, we're lifting and exhuming at the same time that these slab failure magmas are coming through. Now, maybe the sequence is not exactly like that, but I don't know if it matters for what I'm trying to do right now. What I'm trying to do right now is saying this is also a severe signature. And what's 124 to 105? What is this? Magmas, metamorphic rocks, occasional thrust faults, all in this strange, bizarre scene that's lifting out of the ground. The answer is it's the Omanika plutonic complex. That's my choice, not to call it the Omanika belt. I don't want to use the word belt because that implies the belt Purcell. Omanika plutonic complex. This is a big moment for me personally from an hour ago. It may not work for you, but maybe the maps before we quit will show where this Omanika belt is. But the point is, I think we've uplifted at least 5 kilometers worth of crust. It's gone. So maybe all these thrust faults that were where the Omanika is today are gone. And we're getting this mid-crustal stuff. What are we talking about? We're talking about the frickin' crystalline core lifting in the North Cascades. But that wasn't here. That was 50 million years ago. That's why I'm turned on this morning. advanced thought. If this is the same collisional suite sketch, but it's 50 million years ago with Siletzia, we don't have arc magmas because Siletzia didn't form by subduction, but do we have everything we've been working on the last 3-4 winters with the Dream Team and everything else? How much of the North Cascades of Washington? This. 50 to 45, where the geologic elevator is rising. Some of you were saying that in the live chat last time when you saw that animation. Oh my God. It's working for me currently. I don't know if it will continue to work, but it's working for me currently. I've got one more color on this suite. What do we have so far? Arc magmas, check. Slab failure magmas, check. Crystalline core, for lack of a better label. Bunch of metamorphic rocks at the surface, check. Thrust faults, check. Grouped by age, check. Well, there's one more. Where did all that rock, where did all that 5 kilometers, let's say 3 miles of bedrock go? If it got lifted starting 124, we eroded it. We exhumed it. Exhumation, which simply means lifting and eroding. Well, over here, miles and miles from the actual suture, sedimentary rocks, presumably getting finer as you go away from the area of uplift. But this is severe as well. This is maybe off now, but sticking with the same numbers. That says sediments. Also post-collisional. So the idea is that we have a huge collision 124 million years ago, but are we going right here to look at the 124 million year stuff? Not really. We need to go away from the point of impact and see older than 124 stuff, and then this whole suite of younger than 124 million year old stuff. And collectively, it's telling the story of this collision. I find this so beautiful. Not my sketch literally, but I find this so beautiful, and I didn't think much about all of this stuff working together. I would just look at this thing, look at this thing. Yeah, you want it? I'll give it to you. You want it? You want these frickin' words that keep coming up from Hildebrand? This whole thing is the hinterland. This whole thing, the plutonic complex, the Olmanica in this case, I guess, the coast plutonic complex if we go to another collisional event and a younger collisional suite. And this whole thing is the foreland. Even I remember talking about the foreland fold and thrust belt. I'm leaving the folds out of this, but there's folds in here too. So foreland, hinterland, I'm setting up some maps. We only got 20 minutes left. But to me, that was a valuable use of time. I have no idea how it's being received on the other end. But I think if we keep using this and this, there's no rhyme or reason for the colors here matching here necessarily. But I just wonder if this is going to continue to help us. And the dream scenario for me is next summer when I make a bunch of videos with the Purdue team, Mike Eddy, Ken Ridgway, Brandon Keogh. They're giving me their classic story, their traditional view of where we are in Alaska between Anchorage and Fairbanks. We're going to make a bunch of short geology videos. And I think at the moment, the dream for me is I whip out my index cards at some point and I say, well, where are we on this? And they're like, what is that? They won't say that. Mike in particular is going to be watching every one of these. Mike will be on this series, Mike Eddy. And we'll see. I won't be springing the index cards on him, but it might be a huge food fight up there. I don't know. It might be a huge food fight next month if we start talking to Alaskan geologists. I'm not going to let it be a food fight, but I do. Food fight? What? Animal House. The tone of this is exploring alternative ideas, right? That's the spirit. Fun. Okay, I got 20 minutes left. Let's go to Hildebrand's images to add to what we were just doing. But this is the collisional suite. Okay, second monitor. What do we have? So pleased with myself in this case. Probably too pleased. Okay, I mentioned I'm getting a lot of emails. Come on, can I not play this? What's going on? Jesus Christ. Hang on. Keynote, why is this a problem? I want to play it won't let me play the slideshow. Okay, I don't get it. Can I at least advance? Hang on. 3 texts so far. Quitting and opening Keynote. Sean Wilsey says hello. No, don't do that. Open iCloud. Come on, people are waiting. Okay, I don't know what's going on, but at least I have it functional now. I can't get this. Don't. Thank you for your patience. How about this? Jim, I don't know Jim. Jim's a viewer. He just happened to send this to me. Say, hey, I was watching the last show, had a nice sunset or whatever on Thursday afternoon. We are jealous, Jim. Beautiful. Thank you. Oh my God, I can't move this thing? I'm sorry, folks. I've never had this before. I don't know what's happening. This is the least of my concerns, typically. I know how to use Keynote. Jesus Christ. Sorry, Patrick. I have a bunch of slides ready for you. How do I get to them? I might have to... I'm not sleeping, I'm sure. We have a spiring beach ball of death. What is going on? Don't start talking shit about Max, please. Okay, I have it right. Oh, that's the problem. It's a totally different window. Okay. Whatever this thing is, I'm getting rid of it. This is the slideshow. Man, I thought it was the document camera that was going to give me problems. Okay, more viewer stuff. I got this, I read this morning. Hi, Nick. So excited about your Alaska series. I've learned so much already. So many dots got connected for me in just the first 3 episodes. I have an idea for a phrase to capture slab failure and the resulting uplift. Drop and pop. Drop for the slab breaking and dropping off, and pop for the associated uplift that results from the breakage. Just a thought. Thanks for the ideas and nice things. Thank you, Cascades Carolyn. I like it, Carolyn. So let's remind ourselves of the pop and drop. What'd you call it? Drop and pop, right. So here's Hildebrand himself giving us a sense of the westward subduction underneath the island arc. And remember now, we can do anything. We can talk about any of the 7 collisions. Not true. Maybe all 6 of the collisions before Silesia, Bob is saying, is a westward subduction story. Not true of that. But this is what Carolyn's referring to, and she remembered from the last episode, backwards on purpose, pulling North America. I'm not going to do this all again. We did this in the last episode, but here's that animation, which I still don't have a credit for. Chris Mattinson has not watched these yet. He typically watches on Sunday as he's cooking dinner. But Carolyn is saying when we finally drop first. We're about to drop the ocean floor, and it's scatological, but Carolyn is clean. Drop the ocean plate and then pop the upper plate up, the exhumation. Thank you, Carolyn. So that subsidence and exhumation is also part of this, which maybe it should have been added more succinctly. I want to show one short video clip from the field today, and this is a very short email from Bob back in July. Cool video. Your mega conglomerate stop with Sean Wilsey was cool. Big chaotic debris flow deposits from Eocene exhumed thrust terrain, my northerly migration story. I love the emails, Bob. Thank you. That was short and sweet. I didn't understand it at the time. It was too early for me. It went right through me. Exhumed thrust terrain, my northern migration story. Well, now I know what to do with it, I think. So Bob is saying that in that video, you're showing a bunch of huge boulders in a conglomerate that are part of a foreland sedimentary deposit that's from a exhumation related to a collisional suite. And in the case of the video clip that I'm about to show you, it's Eocene conglomerate, therefore it's Eocene exhumation and Eocene thrust faults. You mean to tell me are you telling me there's Eocene thrust faults in the Rocky Mountains? Yeah, that's a major part of the new paper. And we might squeeze it in here today, or we might have to wait till next time, but there's 2 generations of thrust faulting that pertain to the northern Rocky Mountain Trench and the southern Rocky Mountain Trench in particular, going down into Montana, and that's what got me going into these JAGs the last 2 episodes. I was just thinking okay, there's different generations of thrust faults. In fact, there's 4 different generations of thrust faults in this new paper. Why do we have 4 different generations of thrust faults? Well, I think I potentially can see it now. There's 4 different collisions, I guess. All right. So so what video clip is Bob talking about? I've got it queued up here at, 37 seconds. This is Sean Wilsey. Many of you know him from YouTube fame. Oh, boy, I am. Keynote. I'm overconfident with Keynote right now. What is... Okay. I'm sorry for the profanity, Patrick, and I'm sorry for being disjointed on the part that I didn't think would be a problem. Let's watch about a minute of this to give you a sense of how one local casual field trip with Sean Wilsey and Sky Cooley stumbling into something local can be plugged into one of the biggest, grandest tectonic stories in the American West.
Looking at this and interpreting this landscape, seeing the folds in the limestone, the unconformity, and this conglomerate were just like really icing on the cake for me.
Terrific. This episode brought to you by Hoka's. Hoka's,
right.
In the big blue box. You gotta love it.
Hoka, if you want to sponsor some intrepid geologists in there.
Yeah, now wait a minute. How long has that taken to realize?
We'll have to send in an email.
What in the world? This is the most impressive conglomerate I think I've ever seen.
Really?
Well, have you seen a conglomerate with class that big?
Yes.
Where?
But they're still this impressive. So the Sevier Foreland Basin. So sediment shed off the Sevier Mountains into those proximal environments at the foot of the mountains. Echo Canyon in Utah. Down in central Utah, there's a place called Maple Canyon.
Holy shit.
And you see clasts that are
You've got to be
this
kidding
big.
me. Really?
And they're all quartzites.
Quartzites. I don't think there's any place in the Pacific Northwest like this. Maybe for the first time, I'm convinced I'm in the Rocky Mountains right now.
Well, I'm just glad I was able to impress you, Nick. So.
Well, and the beautiful look of this quartzite, I mean, we don't have to break it. This boulder's shattered in half.
Yeah.
And this crushed, dense, I mean, this is a... Sean Wilsey just used the phrase, Foreland Basin, Sevier Foreland. Now, I'm not sure. So Sevier, I think, is used casually. I don't know. Sevier, from Bob's world, Sevier is what we were just doing, the severe collision. Now, Bob, I wonder, isn't the severe, like Sean was just using it, far younger? Isn't the severe fold and thrust belt viewed as starting 85? Isn't that tied to the Laramide? Isn't there confusion, I guess, is my point. And I can hear Bob saying, there's no confusion. All right, just read my stuff. Well, I have done episodes on the Rocky Mountain stuff and why did the Rocky Mountains form and everything else. And I think the more common usage of the word severe, from my point of view, I may be totally off, is it's younger than 100 million years ago. So I don't know. That's a loose end for me. But I liked both Sean and Bob talking about the significance, the regional significance of those units. Can I keep going with Keno? Now I'm gun shy. Okay, so this one is now posted on the website as well. So I'm trying to put one Hildebrand paper for each episode. And you're like, thank God. There was way too much reading last winter. You had like 6 or sometimes a dozen papers for one episode in the alphabet. There's no way I could keep up. So thank you for keeping it to one paper per episode. Well, you're welcome, but the one paper for each of these episodes so far is a frickin' book. So, with the exception of the new 2025 paper on the Tintini Rocky Mountain Trench Fault, every episode has like 150 pages of reading for you. So we've already talked about how that's a challenge for most of us. But many of the images I want to share with you right now as we close up this episode is coming from this 2017 publication. Like this, severe hinterland, severe fold and thrust belt, using Bob's word severe, using 124. I think I have this right. Here's the Omanika plutonic complex. This is some of the same Omanika plutonic complex. Here's the fold and thrust belt from the severe. You're like, okay, I'm lost right now. I'm talking about this. Here it is. Like, I can't do a split screen, I guess, but can I go back and forth between this? Here's the to me, this is the exciting part of today. This area on our collisional suite sketch, got it? This is this. I think happy accident, I chose purple in both. There's purple, and then blue, and blue. And I guess severe 124 to 105 sediments. I'm getting a sinking feeling now that I'm mixing collisional generations by trying to go to this sketch. So maybe I'll back off of going this far east. But please remember, in our first episode, Bob Hildebrand says, this Omanika belongs down here with the rest of the Omanika, essentially. And a bunch of these thrust faults belong down here. So what's the last thing I need to do with this sketch? If it's the 124 million year old hit, and we have our collisional suite, and we have our arc magmas that are older than the hit, and we have all this shit that's younger than the hit, what's the last thing I need to do? I need to cut it. I need to slice it. And where am I going to slice it? This is a collision. It's not intact anymore. None of the collisions are intact anymore. Every one of these collisions has been cut in half. Where am I going to cut this sketch? According to Hildebrand's work, where did this thing get cut? It got cut here. And Bob Hildebrand, with the 2025 paper, says this was the intact collision in Nevada and Utah, and this stuff is now in British Columbia and Alberta, and I guess Yukon and even Alaska. And there's just this that's still down here. Omanika orphan. The Omanika plutonic complex. The Omanika, an orphaned Omanika impregnated by plutons. Those are direct phrases from Bob's slideshow. Can you see it? Bob Hildebrand in the live chat says the slice is more or less correct. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Got a compliment from Hildebrand. I think we need to stop right here. That's what we're going to do. We're going to stop right here. Do I even peek? Oh. No, it's more of the same. Just zooming in. Zooming in on the Nevada, Utah area. Zooming in on the Omanika area. And it's these thrust faults. They're not all the same age. You're like, I know, it says belt supergroup, that's Precambrian, this is Cretaceous stuff down below. I'm not talking about the rocks. I'm talking about the crack. I'm talking about the fault. I'm talking about this fault. Not all of the faults in the northern Rocky Mountains are the same age. And the faults are part of the collisional suite. And so from this point forward, when we find a magma, we'll ask arc or slab failure. And when we find a thrust fault, we're going to say, which collision? Which collision? These thrust faults aren't just going to show up randomly. There has to be a reason for the thrust fault. And Hildebrand and others need to be forceful in their writing to say that a collision is the reason for the thrust fault, as well as all the rest of this stuff. Okay, thank you. It's 9 o'clock, top of the hour. We're cutting this one here. And let me read some Bob text to you, and then we will go to your live question and answer. Okay. Something's going on with my computer. Okay, let's read together. Bob Hildebrand, live comments. Probably a good idea to always show one plate dipping below the other one rather than smashing it, as it's really not what happened. Okay, the crust gets thickened from thrusting, which is actually syn-collisional, okay, and also by putting the arc on top of the continent as the continental edge is being subducted beneath it. That's helpful. On the scale of our sketch, maybe that can be included. Thank you. Only when the slab fails does the collisional zone start to rise and exhume. Yes. Traditionally, since the days of Dick Armstrong, which is University of British Columbia back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, who named the severe orogeny, people have generally thought about one long episode of thrusting. I found that there can be broken into several periods with rather quiet intervals in between that correspond to the periods in between the various collisions. Super helpful, Bob. That's super helpful. If I'm reading your text correctly, Bob, the severe has almost been a garbage can. Not a bucket, but the severe has been this broad general label for so much of this thrust fault activity in the American West. Yeah, severe. Thin skin severe. But I'm rolling with it, Bob. I may be screwing things up now. You see some thin skin folded thrust belts in Idaho and you go, severe. You go up to Omanika, severe. It's just severe everywhere. Because you're talking, that's even literally what people have been saying in past alphabets. The severe is more of a style of structural geology, of deforming the crust. Thin-skinned, pizza boxes, plywood sheets. But here's the first time I've heard somebody say, if you really look at all of this severe thrusting and folding, it's not a steady ongoing thrusting. There are periods of quiet. Is that what you said? There are rather quiet intervals that are happening during this very broad, severe time frame. And so therefore, we're getting down to the details where we can break out individual collisions. That's huge. Bob Hildebrand text. In my diagram from 2013 book that you were showing, I was wrong. There is no severe hinterland in the Great Basin, and it's all up in the Canadian Cordillera as an Omanika belt. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, that's about the right place to slice it. Very good. Bob Hildebrand on his best behavior this morning. Thank you. It's time for some live Q&A. It's 5 minutes after the top of the hour. All is right in the world. I'm feeling great right now. Hope that you are too. Uppercase, please, if you have already typed in your question for us. Maybe copy and paste that and put it into the live chat right now. And we'll do this for another 10 minutes or so, and then we'll call it a day. If a fault is deep enough, could it serve both roles? A strike slip transition to a thrust and vice versa. Thanks, Patrick. I think that's an ultimate question for some. Can you do strike slip motion on what is now viewed as a thrust fault? I think that's a pretty out there statement, but I've heard Stephen Johnston say it, for instance. Let's move on. I'm not sure how much more to say there. Saber in his tent, how does the 6 hits fit into old intermontane insular Silesia model? Not great. 150, those work beautifully, don't they, Saber, with what we've done in the past? I don't see a 170 million year collision with Bob's work. And so there are some things to work out between what we have done in the past? Do we just abandon what we've been doing the past 2-3 winters? Admittedly, much of that nomenclature and those dates were coming from older work, I guess, although I'm not really sure I should stop. Joe Slick Live. I know it's elementary, but applying what you have said. So blind thrust faults are just older thrust faults, or that have been covered by sediment, or through more compression? Thinking about LA today. Thank you, Joe. You can have blind thrust. You can have major earthquakes in Los Angeles. Let's say that 1994 Northridge, I think that was on a fault that nobody knew existed, and it just didn't daylight to the surface. In the context of the new paper by Bob, he's saying that at least, and that's where we need to start with that before we get to the magmas. That's how we'll start next Thursday. The younger thrust faulting activity has shoved upper plates of those thrust faults on top of these older faults that have a translation story. Thank you. Eric, so the severe is more of a style of thrust faulting? That's the confusion. That's what some people say, but to clarify, I think everyone agrees that severe deformation is a style with thin-skinned, thin slices of crust being. This is my cheat sheet for today. I was cheating and looking at one I did at the kitchen table this morning. So yeah, I think everybody agrees that's, if you see that in a cross section, that's severe. I can't hold it. Can I get to this? Oh, no. Okay. Do it next time. There's some beautiful cross sections from Bob's work that show this severe style. But what's new here is that Bob is saying, I want to call severe only the 124. And this younger severe style, I don't want to call it severe. I want to call it Peninsula Ranges thrusting if it's roughly slightly younger than 100. I want to call it, I guess, Silesia related thrusting if it's slightly younger in the neighborhood of 50, and so on. That really clears things up. It was too loosey-goosey for me when I talked to these different Rocky Mountain geologists. I think I like this better. Tracy, if the slab failed and pinched off to the west under the arc, why are the post-collisional magmas found to the east? That's a great question. We will think hard about that next week. Down to live. Explain how there's hinterland to the north and some in the south. I guess Bob just said he was wrong. There is no hinterland in the south. I'm on thin ice now. I don't really know what I'm talking about with half of this. I'm just reading some of these questions just to get into the ether here. Kevin, I'm thinking the 6 collisions are the detail that makes up the older intermontane insular Silesia nomenclature. Detail that makes up the old nomenclature. As Bob has said, he's taking kind of broad brush storytelling and getting finer and finer detail, and therefore he can break out more collisions. So we're kind of leaving some of these old labels when we realize there's more detail available to us. Sky Cooley, severe style, oh, he's talking to somebody else. Severe style deformation overlaps with laramide. See, that's it, Sky. Overlaps with laramide style deformation in classic locations like Wyoming and Montana. Origins can overlap in time and space. Well, that's another interesting point. Are we still doing some of this collisional suite action from the severe as we're about ready to do the Peninsula Ranges? Well, that's a mess. Or is there enough quiet time between Bob's collisions to be able to really pull out the distinct collisions? I'm scrolling back now. Hans. So the antler platform with I'm not ready for that. Sorry, Hans. In other words, too early for me. It'll go right through me. Even your question. Nat the Wonder Boy's here again. Nat, you set your alarm? Don't some of the pre-100 slices move south? Not everything moves north after docking. We'll get into it. I think everybody, including Hildebrand, agrees that there's sinistral motion older than 100. But that's the slice part. The dock and slice are related, of course, but I think we might also use this index card a fair amount. We can't talk about the docking and the slicing simultaneously because they're not happening simultaneously. Why did I get into that? I can't remember. Please compare the geographic scales of Silesia and severe deformation in North America. Thank you, Sky. Any evidence of Triassic collisions? Good question. Maybe the Talkeetna Arc. Is there any geochemical? I'm scrolling back. Is there any geochemical data to correlate the Amanika in the U.S. and Canada? Would love to know the origin of the exotic terrains. Thank you, Therese. In the Netherlands. We're not going to do much of that here because 5 years ago, when I started this alphabet format, it was the winter of 2020, going into 2021, and all 26 letters were literally going through each exotic terrain: Quinella, Silesia, Cache Creek, Grello, Alexander. Some of those names will come back, Therese, but I think I want those episodes to stand alone. I think they hold up for the most part because I wasn't too bothered with exotic terrains A to Z. I wasn't too bothered by models, I don't think. I think I was just trying to learn the most basic things about what kinds of rocks and ages and fossils and other things were found in each of those terrains. And some of them were coming from all the way across the ocean, the Tethyan fossil stuff, the Yabina fossils. It's kind of rusty to me, but I don't know if we'll do a lot of that this winter. Always intelligent questions. I'll say a couple final things and read a few more questions. We're getting geologists now watching these things, Alaskan geologists as well. I'm starting to get emails from a bunch of folks. So the word is out, and it's great that they're here too. Most of them do not choose to be in the live chat with the rest of us. But that's fine. It's more than one person. It's happened many times over the years where a geologist will watch one of these. They'll see your questions and they'll go, wow, those are actually good questions. They don't realize how fucking snotty they are and snooty and erudite. Wow, they actually had good questions. Yeah, there's smart people here. You don't all need to have a PhD from Stanford to think about this stuff. And their shit doesn't stink, by the way. If you go to Stanford, your shit does not stink magically. Look it up. It's in the brochure. The rest of us have stinky poops. Eric, so is the severe more of a style of... Okay, sorry. I'm down to live looking for 3 more and we're done. Kent, don't thrust faults have a strike slip to convey material perpendicular to strike? I don't think so, Kent. I view thrust faults as being north-south trending structures in a most simple way on a map, and then a big pizza box is being shoved east, which is perpendicular to that. If you're saying something different, I misunderstood your question. Jim, is there heat generated from the compression of docking? I'm going to show one more sketch if I can find it under docking. It's not addressing the heat, but there's a few more details that Bob has put in his cartoons. I'm finding a paper, Nat, because that frickin' keynote. What is up with the keynote? Here's a... This is a nice way to finish today. This is not severe now, but this is the Peninsula Ranges collision, a younger collision, right? But your question, Jim, reminded me that Bob Hildebrand I just said arc magmas. Here's a little bit more detail from Bob. He's like, okay, so if you're in the exotic composite arc, as he calls it, there's stuff between 128 million years old and 100. And the plutons are deformed from the collision. So I'm showing in our sketch today that all the deformation is us. And this thing is somehow just, I don't know, like unbothered by this collision. Well, that's ridiculous. So Bob is saying that the orange balloons here are deformed for sure. And maybe Bob is saying that these black lines, there's plenty of thrust faults on this side as well. I was hesitant to do that, but maybe I need to add that. Maybe we need some post-collision, kind of screws up the elegance of this, but the post-collisional thrust faults, are they also in the thing that we collided with? Love it. A toast to you. Paper's flying. Thank you for joining us today. Here's to your health. Is that arc magma or slab failure magma? Kirk, if that is your real name. Here's to the health of your family and your friends. Here's to everyone in your community, near and far. The magic of technology allows us to connect with people who are not in town, FaceTime or Zoom or whatever else. Here's to everyone in your community, near and far. Thank you all for watching today. I won't see you again until Thursday, whatever that date is. And I think we will start with the different generations of thrust faults briefly, just to put a nice finish on this discussion with collisional suite features. And then, as promised, I'm almost sure we're going to spend a letter and a half on magmas and seeing if we can really feel strongly about the two different kinds of magmas with a collision. Very important. Thanks, everybody. I love you. Hey. I figured out how to turn it on, Nat. Are there any new ones? There might be, but I just know my old tricks. Well, those are arc magmas. Those are arc magmas. Slab failure magmas? There you go. Have a good day. Have a good weekend. We'll see you on Thursday. Thank you for watching. Goodbye from Ellensburg, Washington, USA.